It began with a few frightened children. They claimed they were cursed. At first, no one believed something so impossible, but within months, an entire town was consumed by fear. Friends began accusing friends. Families turned against their own. Innocent people were dragged before the courts and sentenced to death for crimes they never committed. This is the terrifying true story of the Salem Witch Trials, a story of fear, betrayal, and the darkest side of human nature, a warning that still echoes more than 300 years later.
In the late 1600s, Salem Village was a small Puritan settlement. Life here revolved almost entirely around strict religious devotion. Every villager was expected to attend church without exception. Sermons warned constantly of sin, temptation, and the devil's influence. Daily life was harsh, disciplined, and deeply superstitious. Villagers believed evil spirits could walk among them unseen. The surrounding wilderness was seen as a place of real danger. Beyond the trees, colonists feared attacks and unknown threats. Inside the village, the pressure of faith was constant and heavy.
Inside the village, tensions were already quietly simmering. Land disputes divided families who had once been close. Jealousy and old rivalries lingered beneath the surface. The harsh winter of 1691 had made conditions even worse. Crops had failed, and resources were dangerously scarce. Food was low, money was tight, and hope was fading. Fear, stress, and uncertainty spread quietly through the village. People were tired, cold, and desperate for answers. In a place built on faith, any explanation would do. All it would take was one small spark to ignite disaster.
In January of 1692, something strange began happening. Two young girls, Betty Paris and Abigail Williams, began acting strangely. They screamed without warning and convulsed violently. They spoke of unseen forces tormenting them. Local doctors were called in to examine the girls, but medicine at the time offered no clear explanation. With no natural cause found, fear quickly took over. One chilling word began spreading through the village: witchcraft. Under intense pressure, the girls were asked who had cursed them. They pointed to 3 women in the village.
The first accused were 3 women. One was an enslaved woman named Tituba. Another was an elderly, homeless beggar woman. The third was a woman who rarely attended church services. All 3 were considered outsiders by the community. They were different, and in Salem, different was dangerous. They were arrested and brought in for questioning. The accusations had begun, and they would not stop there. What started with 3 names would soon become hundreds. The town had found someone to blame for its pain.
Word of the arrests spread rapidly through Salem. More girls soon began showing the same strange symptoms. Screaming fits spread from household to household. Villagers grew terrified that witches were hiding among them. Suspicion began to poison ordinary relationships. Old grudges resurfaced as convenient accusations. Neighbors accused neighbors to protect themselves from blame. Even respected members of the community were not safe. A former minister was accused, stunning the entire village. Children were pressured to testify against their own parents. Fear made even the innocent doubt their own neighbors.
Jails quickly filled beyond capacity. Some prisoners were subjected to brutal interrogations. Confessions were often forced through fear and exhaustion. Some confessed simply to save their own lives. Others refused, insisting on their innocence until the end. Panic had completely replaced reason and logic. By summer, more than 100 people had been accused. Families were torn apart overnight. Trust was gone. In its place was paranoia. Every glance, every word could be used against you in court.
A special court was created to handle the growing number of cases. Judges took their positions at the front of a packed courtroom. The accused stood trial with almost no real defense. Much of the evidence used was deeply questionable. So-called spectral evidence became central to many trials. Accusers claimed to see spirits attacking them in the room. No physical proof was required to convict someone. Simply being accused was often enough to secure a guilty verdict.
Families begged desperately for their loved ones' lives. Some testified in defense, risking accusations themselves.
In June of 1692, the first execution took place. Bridget Bishop was hanged, becoming the trial's first victim. More executions followed in the weeks that came after. Entire families watched helplessly as loved ones were taken away. One man refused to enter a plea of guilty or innocent. He was subjected to a brutal, agonizing punishment instead. His courage in refusing to falsely confess became legendary. As September, 19 people had been executed by hanging. Dozens more remained imprisoned, awaiting an uncertain fate. The hill outside Salem had become a place of mourning.
As the executions continued, doubt began to creep in. Respected ministers started questioning the trial's fairness. They worried that innocent lives were being needlessly destroyed. Public opinion slowly began shifting away from blind fear. Even respected officials started to speak out against the court. The use of spectral evidence came under serious criticism. Many realized that almost anyone could be falsely accused. The governor of Massachusetts finally intervened directly. He ordered spectral evidence banned from future trials. Without it, the case against most defendants collapsed entirely.
By October, the special court was formally dissolved. Remaining prisoners slowly began to be released from jail. Families were finally reunited after months of unbearable fear. But for 19 families, no reunion would ever come. In the years that followed, remorse spread through the community. One judge publicly admitted his own terrible mistake. The colony formally acknowledged the trials had been unjust. Some families received financial compensation years later. The names of the accused were eventually formally cleared. Salem slowly rebuilt, but the scars never fully faded.
Today, Salem stands as a lasting symbol and warning. A memorial now honors the innocent lives that were lost. Visitors from around the world come to reflect on this history. The Salem Witch Trials reveal a timeless and troubling truth. When fear overpowers justice, ordinary people can commit extraordinary harm. Neighbors who once trusted each other became bitter enemies, all because fear was allowed to replace reason. More than 300 years later, the warning still remains, a reminder of how quickly fear can turn a community against itself. This is the story of the Salem Witch Trials.